The Spooky Geek Podcast. Your source for true scary stories. With your host, Shane Sadoff.
Welcome to the very first episode of the Spooky Geek Podcast. True scary stories for those with an open mind. It's our first and what I'm hoping will be a weekly encounter devoted to sharing some of these wonderful paranormal short stories of the unexplained pulled from the headlines of history. The plan here is to do just that each and every week. Today's introductory tale is Monster of Hysteria.
The Spooky Geek Podcast is on now.
Every so often, a small town becomes captivated by the strange ongoings in their backyard that really stir up the norm and get people talking. Be it a car crashing into a pond or a pet being grabbed by a hawk, conversation is lit. So how would you feel if on a hot summer day you were afraid to open your windows prior to the invention of air conditioning, that is, because a crazy person might run up and spray poison right into your house? That's exactly what residents of Mattoon, Illinois feared during the height of World War II, when a mysterious figure was thrusted into the local spotlight in newspaper headlines on September 2nd, 1944, for attacking residents with a type of paralyzing gas without warning. First reports of what would become a regularly occurring nocturnal gas attacks in town surfaced on August 31st, 1944, after a man woke from his sleep complaining that he felt sick to his wife. He asked her at the time if she had left the gas on in the kitchen due to his symptoms. When his wife got up to check, she was shocked to find out she couldn't move. Their neighbor in another house, because this is 2020 and it's worth noting, reported similar circumstances after this, adding she had been awakened by the smell that was sweet and overpowering. After failing to leave her bed on her own, she began screaming. This drew the police to the house. Hours later, Mr. Kearney would return from work, unaware of the situation unfolding with his wife, to find a person near the house that would later be identified as the Mad Gasser. Kearney would soon describe the figure that he saw as tall, dressed in dark clothes and a black hat. The story would be published by the Mattoon Journal-Gazette soon afterwards, titled Anesthetic Prowler on the Loose, that would reach all but 500 of the town's 17,000 residents. Neighbors in the alleged bagel capital of the world would soon become terrified of the story of this strange man running up to their homes and paralyzing his victims soon spread. Some residents would see a thin blue vapor reaching their homes, while most just relied on the smell and, of course, the inability to move. At least 4 gas attacks were reported to the Mattoon police soon afterwards. Less than a week after the story broke, a clue was discovered when a family came home to a small white cloth found on their front porch. A woman, the wife of a man who had been out that evening, smelled the alien item and immediately swelled up from exposure to the unknown substance found on the rag. Like some sort of strange allergic reaction, police arriving on the scene would soon connect the rogue garbage to the Gasser attacks. The story caught the eye of FBI agents who began investigating, yet nothing changed. Reports continued to come in describing a man at the scene, and panic continued to grip the town. Some feared the person might be an asylum escapee, while others thought he was a mad scientist, or perhaps, worse yet, a German spy. Now, being the target of hysteria-driven rallies and a political threat, the Mad Gasser had his fingers embedded deep into the consciousness of the community. Locals hoped public rallies would put additional pressure on police to find a suspect, only one ever being brought in, rounded up by a group of vigilantes, released later after passing a police polygraph test. Now, 2 weeks after the attacks, local officials announced a breakthrough in the case. Apparently, large quantities of carbon tetrachloride gas used by a company was the cause of the cases. The company, Atlas Diesel Engine, denied all connections to the case, as it had been in operations long before the alleged gas attacks. The final attack was reported the day after this announcement, when the Gasser would receive the best description of the attacker to date. The most recent victims reported a woman, dressed in men's clothing, spraying gas into the bedroom of their home. An investigation the following morning revealed high-heel shoe footprints discovered below a windowsill outside. In all, 25 neighbors in Mattoon reported waking to gas attacks with reports of choking, vomiting, and temporary paralysis, not to mention the sweet smell associated with the attacks. College psychology courses have cited the story of the Mad Gasser as an example of mass hysteria pinned on women being left alone in their homes, alone, craving attention while their husbands were away at war. But was that really the case? Or did the power of the press offer up a monster too powerful for small-town minds to handle? That's our story for today. Thank you for taking some time to join us here on the Spooky Geek Podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the podcast, and join us back here next Monday as we dust off another spooky tale pulled from the headlines of history.
The Spooky Geek Podcast. Have a spooky story of your own? Or just want to get in touch? Drop us a line. See the show notes for contact details and share your spooky tale today.